Today's story is titled, "The Devil Came to My Confessional Booth and Confessed to Me That Things Horrible Beyond Comprehension Have Seized Control of Hell," by The Scared Scholar. The link to the story is in the description below. Please enjoy. Of all the nights for the devil to visit, he chose one that was calm. No great storms, no loud bashes of lightning and thunder. It was a quiet evening, cloudless, the stars blotted out by the lights of the city. I was on the late shift at the confessional booth. It was the 11th hour, and no one had yet come to use my services. I was nodding off in my chair when the door to the other side of the booth was pulled open. Someone stepped in and sat down. I had heard no one enter the cathedral. The approach of a potential confessor was usually accompanied by great and echoed footsteps as they traversed the stone floor to the wooden cubicle. This one had come in so silently that until the moment they pulled open the door, I had believed myself to be alone. I was still in a state of half-doze, so I blinked several times to wake myself and turned to view the confessor through the grate. I could not make out their face through the wooden screen, and the shadow which filled their compartment obscured most of their finer features, but I could tell that they were male, and they were dressed richly. The confessor wore a suit that looked exquisite, and from the clinking sounds his hands made, I could tell they were covered with rings. They glinted and cast strange warped light rays on the ceiling that reminded me of ancient worms wriggling in primordial ooze. "Good evening, Father." That voice, smooth as oil, like the glint of a freshly sharpened knife, with the note of a coin just flipped. Pure, almost celestial in origin. It rolled pleasingly on my ears, and I was brought to ease. "Forgive me, for I have sinned. It has been eons, uncounted since my last confession." Despite the smoothness of his voice, his words struck an uncertain chord within me. "That is an unusual beginning, my son." The man chuckled. "Allow me to explain, Father. I am Lucifer. I have served an expansive and varied area when it comes to saints and sinners. This was not the first time I had been in a booth and heard the person on the other side admit to being the devil. Most times, such delusions did not interfere with the process. I treated them as any other, spoke to them of their wrongdoings, and tried to give a modicum of hope that they would be made whole, that one day they would be free of their fevered mind. This man was different. It must have been the growing dread I felt at his arrival, but I looked at him more closely through the divider. His eyes found mine, and I saw them clearly, even though his face was still shrouded in the gloom. Brown irises so dark they were almost black. As I searched, I noted he bore none of the popular hallmarks of the Prince of Darkness. No horns, goat hooves, or the smell of sulfur. This man had the smell of cheap wine and the vestments of an investment broker. But in my heart, the truth of the matter grew like a weed. I could not deny it. I was convinced by the darkness the man had brought, and the unease I felt in the corners of my mind. It was the same primeval instinct that tells animals they are in the presence of a predator. He was not lying, my confessor. As sure as I would know the Christ if he walked through my door, I knew this being to be the devil himself. My mouth went dry. My mind was silent. The only words I could utter were those which had been ingrained into me by habit. Do you wish to confess? The devil laughed. It was a soft sound, 2 parts pain and 1 part joyless mirth. It filled the whole space, but made everything feel hollow. When he spoke again, I noticed his voice slurred slightly, like one inebriated. I suppose I have. It sounds odd even to me. I didn't know that I would come here until my feet took the path. I waited. My tongue had frozen to the roof of my mouth. I feared my immortal soul if I were to say the wrong thing to Satan. The devil took my silence as an offered compliance. I hope you understand if I do not make the sign of the cross, considering present company. Quite all right, my son. Lucifer is fine, Father. I swallowed. I reminded myself I was in a place of God, that the devil had no power here. But still, I could not keep my knees from trembling beneath my robe. My heart fluttered within my chest with great entropy. Very well, Lucifer. What do you wish to confess? The devil went quiet. His head bowed in thought. I saw him gather his thoughts, and my fear left me enough so that the gesture struck me as odd. I had only seen such movement before in those humbled. I did not know the devil to be contemplative. Satan began to speak. I confess, hell is no longer mine. Do you mean in that it has been saved through Christ? Even as I spoke, I felt foolish. The devil laughed again. I almost wish that was the case. Does that speak to how dire this situation is? But I suppose you already knew that. I am here, after all. I waited, but the pause continued. How then is hell no longer yours? The devil did not answer for a moment. I heard him sigh, and heard the clink of gold as he wrung his hands together in his lap. What do you know of my history, Father? You fell from heaven. You rebelled against God. You seek to destroy his work. You've studied your own book. Well done. But it is correct in that regard. Yes, I rebelled against God. And yes, I was cast down because of it. The devil took another moment. The initial fear of him was wearing off. As my mind began to work, I again questioned the strangeness of our meeting. I had expected something more like staring into the jaws of a lion. Instead, it was like seeing an old, ill-met acquaintance. The devil spoke again. Yes, I confess. I wish to take control of God's kingdom. I confess to the sin of ambition, if such a sin even exists. I believe I could do better. So wasn't I morally obligated to see it through? Even when I was cast down, I still gathered legions to my side. What was that you people said all those years ago? That God incarnate would come down and allow himself an anogamous death. A fool's bet, I said. I had met God. He would not do it. He could not do it. He was soft. He could not even bring himself to destroy me, and I had done many things to deserve such a punishment. God had limits. But he did do it. My own boldness surprised me. I saw the devil turn to look at me. The unnerving idea came that not only could he see me in perfect detail behind the screen, but that he could see through my very skin and into the darkest desires of my soul. When he spoke, his voice was soft, and I felt that sense of danger return to me. Cold sweat broke out across my brow. The devil's voice barely broke above a whisper. "Yes, he did." For a moment, I held my breath, praying silently to Christ to preserve me. I felt no calming sense of peace, only the stillness of a deaf heaven. The devil remained quiet as he continued. "I take no offense, Father. You are not the first to speak those words to me. The minute Christ rose from that tomb, I lost what control I had over my subjects. In their eyes, I was wrong, no longer to be trusted. Odd, considering they were the ones to give me the moniker Lord of Lies. Mammon was the first to rebel. He led the most away. That made everyone bolder, and Lilith left soon after. Then there was Baal with his priests that seemed to serve everyone and anyone just for some small notoriety. He had never gotten over that Elijah debacle. Felt like he needed to prove himself. They all slaughtered each other. Hell was bathed in the blood of demons for almost a century. "And is this why you have come to me?" I shivered as I felt the devil's gaze upon me once more. "Patience, Father. Isn't that what you preach?" It was silent for a long time. I forced myself to remain quiet. I had begun to sweat, even though my cubicle felt icy cold. I was left with nothing. None of my subjects remained loyal. I was watching the battle for hell as a spectator. No one rallied to my banner. No one remained loyal to the one they had elected as Lord. Somehow, among my own people, I had fallen a second time. It was inexcusable. But I had nowhere left to turn. No manner of recompense. He stopped speaking again, but this time I felt something more than just dread. A great turning point suspended above us. I do not profess the gift of prophecy. The feeling inside of me was not so divine. I felt some insanity compel me, some unevolved part of myself begging for him to stop, to halt the confession and not hear anymore. I knew that if I continued to listen, I risked stepping over the precipice of insanity and into the roiling waters of psychosis. I held my soul in one hand, haggling with infinity for the price of a devil's story. In my foolishness, I disregarded it all. I stayed silent and ushered in my own damnation. "Father," the devil's voice was soft again, "do you know there are depths deeper than hell? Darkness where even I have not ventured. The folly of the learned man is he thinks he has gone further than all else. I share his shame. In my search for power to crush the rebellions of hell, I stumbled on that which I should not have even considered. Things God himself would not challenge. Things that were meant to remain untouched." Through the screen, I saw the devil look down to his hands. almost as a child confronted with their own misdeeds. They were rumors at first, odd mentions, stories forgotten. But I searched them, and as I investigated, those rumors grew into theories, and then into realities. Underneath the bedrock of creation was might untapped. I was certain of it. With that certainty, I went into the dark and wandered for a century. The devil turned to look at me again. In the shadow, I saw his eyes clearly, as I had before. In them, I saw the seeds of madness, but something else. Something embedded deep in the loam of his pupils. Fear. I found things, entities that existed before God himself. Creatures whose names I would not utter even in the full light of day. Being twisted with a greater malice. A primal pain that substituted comprehension of raw power. They understood nothing but the desire to pull every organized molecule and subparticle into a storm of devastation. The devil's voice hitched. He swallowed. In the early days, I would have never, but I was desperate. I became aware of an empty feeling around me, a void that grew stronger in the devil's silence. In the booth, I felt the sight of 1,000 eyes upon me, and I wished to hide, but I could not. I knew I could not. I had stepped over the threshold, and in discerning these beings, I had given them the power to see me as well. Lucifer continued. I tried to tell them, my old subjects. I warned them of what would happen if they persisted in their petty war. I was the true master of hell. I had built this place up from rubble, in the very defiance of God himself. And still they dismissed me. When I told them of the great evil I had at my fingertips, they did not believe me. They thought my mind broken. Imagine that. In the devil's next pause, I hazarded a moment to speak. I could no longer exist in silence without fearing my own annihilation to beings unseen. What did you do? The devil looked at his hands again, so childlike. I woke them. Unbidden to my mind leapt images of carnage. I do not know if it was a vision, but I saw hell reduced to rubble. I felt that void again, a twisting and roiling mass that made my mind race. I saw it grow to swallow the devil's kingdom, and felt its hunger as if it were my own. I felt my soul cry out in anguish as it was torn asunder by the feeling of chaos and nothingness. I knew if I persisted in this state for long, I would lose my mind. Then all in a moment, I was returned to my booth. So swallowed up in what I had seen, I almost missed the devil's next words and the slight tremble that they contained. All I desired was God's throne. I knew I could. I could be better. I could do better. Those beings which now inhabit hell, those who now rule the destiny of men and gods, they are not like you or I. They desire neither control nor salvation. To them, both heaven and hell are so much detritus on the cosmic ocean. I hear the clink of gold again, and I assume the devil was playing with his rings. I confess, hell is no longer mine. And soon, the earth will no longer be God's. Nothing will. I stared at the devil through the screen. He looked at me, and in his veiled countenance, I saw the true misery of damnation. What I had thought was a terrible joke, a trick, was in fact the most sincere form of remorse from the Prince of Darkness, a sin that even he felt the need to confess. The devil looked at me again, and I can tell we both felt empty. For what it's worth, I apologize, Father. I had hoped to rule this world. Now I must watch it crumble. It will end in smoke and rot. The very gates of heaven will rust and disintegrate. The bodies of angels will lie in the streets to fester. The demons already lie in the dust. A day, a week, a millennium. Who knows when what I awoke will ascend? But mark my words, it will ascend. And I will be sole witness to the ending of God, a lone atom in the chaos of uncreation. This is my cross, and I will bear it forever. The devil paused, then continued. This is all I can remember, Father. I am sorry for this, my greatest sin. For a moment, I was so swallowed up in hopelessness that I forgot to offer penance. But what penance could I offer? When I looked through the grate again, the devil had left. I stumbled out and tried to follow him, but found no trace. No evidence that he had came and conversed with me, that he had confessed to the imminent end of everything. I do not know if I crossed the threshold of insanity that night, or the night following. After the devil's confession, I went home and slept through the day and into the next night. In my sleep, I had a dream. I wandered in the dark. Great things moved around me, things with slithering bodies and many limbs. Small perverse things with claws that bit and tore, creatures with terrible wings, bodies made up of concentric circles upon circles that defied all logical thought. They were separate, but conjoined into one great being that overswept all. Before me appeared a great throne made from dark stone. I set myself thereupon, and was swallowed up in a whirl of things known and unknown. I felt the chair beneath me crumble, and great cracks open up in my own body. My blood spilled, and was turned to steam by the heat of the great and terrible ones that then brought the entire scene to an abrupt nothingness. And once there was nothing left to tear, rip, or destroy, they left. Only the void remained. In that freezing vacuum, I passed 1,000 years. Then I awoke. I am no prophet. I do not pretend to know if such things are portents to come. I know I am insane. But the devil promised that those below would ascend. I wait in dread for that day. The day the Lord of Hell promised would come with fear in his eyes.